In today's video, we continue our story in Stoneworks Rathnir, a world-building towny faction server where player-led nations fight for dominance in a constantly changing world. If you haven't already, watch the first part, which can be found by checking the description or clicking on the ad card that just popped up. Before we start, remember to like the video if you enjoy, subscribe for more content, and hit the bell button to receive notifications for future videos. Also, only 1.3% of you watching are currently subscribed, so be sure to With the collapse of the Frostirium, the People's Socialist Democratic Republic of Braznichiya was once again its own country, now double the size of what it had been. The city of Jamestown, previously a rival to Brohaven, was annexed, and town members welcomed the government officials with open arms. Deep in the new territory hid another settlement, a small monastery for the religion of Gonfist, which would be left to its own devices. Communications were being set up with new countries such as Tovarisha and Novareach, while Ecclesia, a theocratic dictatorship to the north of us, was quiet. Things were looking good, and the citizens of Braznichiya believed they were going into a new golden age of peace and stability. But before that could happen, we would have to face our greatest challenge yet, one that had the possibility of destroying the country forever. On the 21st of October, the Senate was alerted by a former Frostirium official that a squatter recently set up a claim and was building a fortress of some kind. The military quickly organized a patrol, and we stormed the area, only to realize it was quite sus. Asking what the squatter, named Fumbles555, was doing, he played dumb, claiming he was new to the server and that we'd have to pay him $25,000 if we wanted to get rid of him. We were suspicious of this demand, and weren't ready to pay a random player so much money. Becoming more belligerent, Robotic warned him that we'd have to declare war. Another 30 minutes or so of arguing went by, and we could not reach a compromise. So the military district of Riedgrad declared war on the kid's claim, with the assumption that he'd be no match against the entire Braznichiyan military. Unfortunately for us, however, this Fumbles person would be much smarter than we had assumed. Me, Faded Stars, Error Panda, and Joe Shark, led by RoboticAuthor, made up a decently sized militia. However, we were poorly equipped, with just base level enchantments on our diamond gear, plus some crossbows with limited ammo. Coming up to the fort, we stood our ground on the southern Braznichiyan wall, and realized the squatters brought several of his friends with him, supposedly from Hypixel, all of them having enchanted diamond armor. We would have no idea how powerful they were until fighting started, but decided to continue on anyways, hoping they wouldn't be able to handle the 1.9 PvP that well. The first part of the fight started with an endless barrage of arrow fire on both sides. Despite the dense man-made forest of bamboo, we were able to get an occasional shot here and there. After the skirmish ended, Faded attempted to sneak around and find a way into the heavily protected Among Us fort, but they realized what he was up to, jumping down from the walls and killing him after a brief fight. In response, the Braznichiyan militia went down to an artificial dirt patch to keep the Susberg Legion distracted so that Faded could get his items back. Things became uncertain, finding ourselves forced to hide behind Among Us statues to avoid the barrage of arrow fire. After reorganizing, however, we were able to get one of their walls slightly open. Soon, both sides were getting the occasional hit on the opposing team, and after a few minutes we realized their swords weren't really effective at all, with a few of their members even spam clicking. Things were looking up as we took turns slowly draining their health and trying to make our way into the base, but suddenly the squatters stormed out and took us by surprise. The militia quickly dissolved as no one could see who they were attacking in the mess of name tags and diamond armor. I tried escaping into the ocean, but my boat was not in my hotbar, and eventually got killed by Fumbles. The rest of the militia would be routed and completely destroyed. It was clear the battle was over, and we had seriously overestimated our enemies greatly. After some more sporadic fighting, a ceasefire was agreed on so that RoboticAuthor and Fumbles could start negotiations. After long, drawn-out talks, we finally settled on paying the squatters $50,000 in turn for them leaving. The problem was that the entire nation collectively only had around $10,000, and would be forced to go into even more debt. It was a crippling defeat, and Ballistic was furious when he found out what happened. The First Susburg War would stain our reputation, and our already fragile legitimacy in the continent of Sparwood quickly dissolved. However, we got back on our feet, tried to shake the dust off and forget about the war. I'm sure this video that could be seen by thousands of people will make forgetting somewhat difficult. In my original script, this was where it was supposed to end. Things became stable for the next few days. Braznichiya and Novareach, now with little reason to be hostile with each other, were getting ready to sign the Pact of Kirsten, a non-aggression and mutual beneficiaries alliance designed to improve ties with the two countries. The port city of Kirsten was awarded new lands to expand. With all this happening, I decided it was time for me to go and seek a new adventure, despite forgetting to finish my house. Ballistic gave me the Golden Star of Outstanding Service, the highest, albeit only, reward someone can receive from Braznichiya. So with that, I said my farewells, grabbed a spruce boat, and headed westwards, once again passing by the fallen kingdom of Asienfjord and the Imperium of Isenland, the country that wasn't important for the last video. Eventually I ventured through the seas controlled by the pirate dominion of Tortuga. Despite the name, I luckily came across no pirates. I made it to my destination safely. The unitary state of Jimilatau was a small, peaceful nation with a few islands, led by Juno4321, the player who makes the cool maps. I secured a plot of land to build my house, and was ready to relax in the southern sunshine found on the pristine island, but this vacation would be short-lived, as events were stirring up back again in Braznichiya. The Holy Kingdom of Ecclesia was a country built by immigrants, fleeing religious persecution. Their great cathedral was integral to the religion of Ambrion, and originally built in the western nation of Ardat. But after the lands the Ecclesians settled were bought by Silicios, they were told to give up the cathedral so it could become a Lux church. Thankfully, with the help of some religious intervention, it was teleported deep within Frostmire territory, just to the north of Braznichiya. The town built around the cathedral was allowed to be an autonomous region inside the empire. Over the months, it would slowly grow in power. The province was nearly the opposite of the PSDRB, pro-capitalist and anti-democratic, and the two would become nearly hostile with each other. When the Frostarium collapsed, the country annexed a significant amount of federal land. With big ambitions, it soon began looking at its neighbors, the Free City of Heimstadt, the People's Republic of Braznichiya. On the 29th of October, the PSDRB received an ultimatum from the Kingdom of Ecclesia, demanding the integration of Braznichian lands into Ecclesia. They were backed by Frostmire and Fjellheim, two major powers, which meant it would be extremely difficult to prevail. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the Selenian Empire of Asharia declared war on Braznichiya, demanding Jamestown, Kirsten, and the rest of the Western Territory, against not only the most powerful nations in Sparwood, but also one of the largest empires in all of Rathnir. The government collapsed, and the country was split between the Ecclesia and the newly formed puppet of Asharia, the Kingdom of Chance. Soon, things became depressingly silent. Ecclesia was uninterested in the former PSDRB, and the lands were left in what was essentially anarchy. Citizens didn't bother to get online, and the port city of Kirsten, now controlled by Chance, was destroyed and left in ruins, with the town members being forcibly removed by Asharia. Things were looking grim, and it compelled me to go back to the lands from which I first began my journey. I was unsure what I could do, but soon I began working on the plans to try and save a people nearly annihilated by months of strife and turmoil. A short discussion between me and RoboticAuthor about the future of the former Braznichiya quickly turned into a new Discord server with the few remaining active senators and citizens, besides Ballistic Biscuit. We had come to the conclusion that his leadership was poor, and had led to the failure of the PSDRB to maintain its sovereignty, as well as ruin the reputation of Braznichiya through poor diplomacy and a belligerent attitude. it was decided he would not be the leader of the new country, and we'd become fully democratic. We called ourselves the Vostokiyans, a new name meant to change the rest of Sparwood's perception of us, hopefully for the better. The government would consist of a senate, and the former head of senate would merge with the ballistics role to become the chancellor. A new code of law and bill of rights was written by Error Panda, while I wrote the Declaration of Independence, which stated our purpose and reasoning behind our actions. For the time being, an interim government would rule during the revolution, with the previous senators becoming temporary leaders. Riedgrad would be the capital, and Brohaven joined the movement as well, while the ruins of Braznichiya and the rest of the former PSDRB territory would be claimed, including Sussburg, which became a secret location to stash our belongings. After several days of preparation, we were ready, and on the 7th of November, I, as Chancellor of the new regime, declared the Vostok Republika as an independent successor state to the PSDRB, to be once again its own nation, separate from our northern neighbor. When I told the Pontifex of Ecclesia, CaptainWesteros, he wasn't exactly happy, but I guess that's in his name. We wanted independence, but the leader refused to budge, which forced us to go ahead with the revolution anyways and publicly announce our decision. We happened to revolt at a very good time. The server admins changed how the war system worked and forced a week-long truce between all countries, giving us plenty of time to prepare for an eventual fight. Revolutionary Vostok was a time of great excitement and activity. Brohaven and Riedgrad were fortified heavily, with bamboo stalks and berry bushes popping up all over the place. The Ecclesians would be forced to fight for every inch of our lands. We were gathering supplies, making money, and creating protection for enchanted armor sets, but as usual, things would not be this easy. On Stoneworks, espionage, spies, saboteurs, and those sort of things are major parts of political warfare. Early on, we had been tipped off about a potential spy in our government, a bad faith actor that had the potential to cause the total destruction of our new country. But who could it be? Which one of the senators could be working with the Ecclesians? Well, it was Joe Shark, a citizen of Riedgrad. He and his friend J-Space were important members and had created a massive batch of potions for the upcoming war. He was going to steal all of the potions and betray us right before the first battle. Did not know his intentions, reasoning, or how much information he was giving, but we decided to play our cards close and use them to our advantage. A secret Discord group chat was created where we could securely discuss our plans. The main Vostok Discord chats were used to spread false information to Joe Shark, and consequently the Ecclesian government. All the while we were dealing with other pains. Ballistic was furious over what happened, and felt like we threw him under the bus. We began going to other leaders in Sparwood to spread rumors and conspire against us. Now, to take a brief aside, his actions were probably justified, at least from his point of view. There was some confusion about who actually surrendered to Ecclesian, but I quickly got tired of his shenanigans, and I became sick, forcing me to step away from Stoneworks for a few days. Luckily, the Brohaven mayor, Gunhands, took my place as chancellor and did a great job fortifying her town, making war propaganda, and getting tons of new people to join the Vostok Republika to help in our fight. So far, things were currently a mixed bag. If Ballistic really wanted to, he could split the country in two and allow Ecclesian troops into our heartland through the town of Braznichiya. Joe Shark had given Casper the complete layout of both of our castles, and there were rumors that Fjellheim and Frostmire would once again send troops to support Ecclesian. But the end of the truce was nearing, regardless of if we were ready. We'd have to begin getting ready for total warfare. After several days, we exposed Joe Shark, confiscating his potions and kicking him from our town. We got into a VC to explain things, and it was honestly quite cordial. He explained that Ecclesia had offered him safety if he helped spy for them. They also spread rumors and convinced him it was a helpless cause. All things considered, he never got the chance to really betray us in a crippling way. Not to mention Ballistic was causing far more trouble, and Admiral, a previous senator for the PSDRB, raided our Eltham mining outpost, stealing so much that the server admins banned him. so we opted to give the spy most of his personal belongings back, and would re-invite him to the country once the revolution was over. Things soon seemed to turn around for us, and when the Ecclesia found out that we had spies in their ranks, they became paranoid with each other. Innocent politicians were accused of spying for us, some were even temporarily removed from office, but after a few days, things returned to normal, and they were once again stable. Time was just about up, and a battle would be coming, perhaps sooner than later. On the 16th of November, the Ecclesian military invaded Vostok. 15 personnel, including some foreign troops, Willister from Fjellheim, and Quaxo from the Gartek Horde, made up the army. They occupied the town square of Riedgrad, taking us by surprise. RoboticAuthor, Faded Stars, and I were the only ones able to get into the Riedgrad castle. Gunhands and Error Panda tried to get on, but were stuck in the multi-hour long queues. It was 3 Vostokiyans versus 15 Ecclesians. Just a few weeks prior, our entire military was decimated by 4 squatters. Things looked desperate, but we would fight until the bitter end. It was not entirely hopeless, however. Error Panda redesigned the castle with traps, endless hallways, and great vantage points to defend our position. Me and Robotic entrenched ourselves at the first major choke point, a ladder surrounded by berry bushes, while Faded Stars would patrol the castle sides. The Ecclesians, on the other hand, split into 2 groups, one staying in the town square, with the second heading behind the castle, beginning to build a siege tower. The northern force stormed the entrance, cautiously making their way up the stairs. Once they got up to the bridge, they were met with bow fire from us. In the first barrage of arrows, we scored a kill, and slowly the enemy force would try and get through the bridge, accidentally pushing each other into the berry bushes that shred through their armor. Meanwhile, the southern force was successfully building their tower, and Faded was doing his best to ward them off, but it would likely only be a matter of time until they finally were able to breach the castle walls. Back to the front of the castle, a few Ecclesians finally made it to the ladder, and things would only become more difficult for them. We were well supplied this time, able to hold off 6 players by endlessly shooting them off the ladder, even managing to kill another attacker. Unfortunately for us though, the southern attack force had managed to get into the castle, and fighting broke out between Faded and the increasing number of Ecclesians. I began making my way over to support him, and things quickly fell into chaos. In the fighting, me and Faded were able to take out 2 more attackers before being killed, while a Robotic eventually got overrun by the northern force. We all respawned at the top of the castle and were able to get resupplied and rearmed, while the 10 or 11 attackers left were essentially running in circles thanks to Error Panda's amazing castle design. Coming back down, fighting began once more. He was caught alone and slain by multiple Ecclesians, but grabbed an axe and was just barely able to kill 1 more Ecclesian by knocking him off the ledge. My allies were able to get 1 or 2 more kills as well, but soon our supplies had dried up and they were starting to make their way to our headquarters. We gathered what we could and got ready for one last defense. The attackers swarmed the headquarters and we were only able to kill 1 more fighter before being completely outnumbered and forced to surrender. The battle was over, and despite our best efforts, the Ecclesians managed to win. However, they were actually quite impressed with how we handled ourselves. 3 veterans of the Among Us War, with little actual battle experience, was able to defend against the entire Ecclesian military and take out nearly half of their forces. A Pyrrhic victory for Ecclesia would be a victory for us. The Vostokiyans did not have the manpower to take on Ecclesia and her allies, but the resources necessary to invade and occupy the entire Republica would be too much for an enemy force to bear. With neither side having the ability nor morale to continue fighting, a deal would be worked out where Vostok was allowed to become its own country as a protectorate of Ecclesia. In return, the government would pay $240,000 for leading the rebellion, which by this point we would actually have the money to pay off. Overall, both sides had a lot of fun, and total war wasn't really wanted by either side. Over the next few weeks, the Vostok Republica would enter a new era of peace and relative prosperity, something that hadn't ever really been seen before. Democratic elections went underway, and RoboticAuthor would become the new chancellor. The government would stay market socialist, whatever that means. After spending nearly 2 months in the same country, I was finally ready to leave. But as of recording, I'm becoming more active in the country again, so I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to leave this place. But while this is the end of the video, it is not the end of the Vostok Republica. Hundreds of more stories yet to be told are waiting in the small region of a single continent on a server with thousands of people. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more content like this, and comment down below to tell me how you thought, or suggest other countries/servers I should visit. See you in the next video. Well, I still haven't finished my house.